Yeah, motherfuckers. Boy D47 all day for real, AMP and pop-off. Popping off as much rugby league information as possible. Right now, the 1990 wooden spoon in the Australian Rugby League, one of the very worst of them all. This will be a marathon video. We'll go for at least 10 minutes, so strap yourselves in. And so you don't miss any crucial rugby league information, watching this video all the way through to the end. As for always, so much to divulge and discuss this time. So, first of all, it was South Sydney who got the wooden spoon in 1990, winning just 2 games out of the 22. And at one point losing 13 consecutive games. But so much more to discuss than just that. So, one thing at a time, let's just sift through it, try and sift through it in a nice orderly fashion, one step at a time. So, first of all, the previous year in 1989, South Sydney had actually finished as minor premiers, believe it or not. In 1989, South had won 18 games, had 1 draw and only lost 3 of their 22 games, before unfortunately choking in the finals. The 1989 finals, South lost to Balmain in 2010 and then to Canberra 32-16. But obviously we're still expected to be one of the heavyweights in 1990. But unfortunately, where they came undone was no fewer than 9 of their first grade players, so pretty much half the first grade team, had tested positive to recreational drugs and were stood down by the club accordingly. So obviously that makes it extremely difficult to win games on a regular basis, but you would have thought, okay, maybe then, so it's just the one poor year they had. You would have thought that maybe they might have bounced back in 1991 and recovered. Well, no. Unfortunately, it was actually the beginning of the end. After this catastrophe, because it was a catastrophe in 1990, South did not make the finals once in the 1990s. They were besieged by ongoing financial trouble and difficulty throughout the decade, before eventually being booted at the end of the 1999 season, before, of course, the fans had to rally. Tens of thousands of fans had to rally and get them back in the comp for the 2002 season. But this was the beginning of the end. So even though South getting kicked out didn't happen until 9 years later, 1999, 9 years prior in 1990s was actually the beginning of the end for them. Because the once proud team, the pride of the league, the team who at that point in time had won 20 premierships, more than any other team. Yeah, unthinkable what would happen in the 1990s, given how awesome they used to be for so many decades. And I said 20 premierships at the time. Yes, I know they've won 21. The 21st wasn't until the 2014 grand final when they beat Bulldogs 30 points to 6. At this point in time, it was 20 premierships. So, yeah, absolutely incredible fall from grace. Pretty much the most astounding fall from grace, I think, ever witnessed in the history of rugby league, and South's defence in particular. Okay, you'd probably expect some woeful defence with 9 first grades missing for most of the season, but still. In attack, South had scored 302 points, but conceded 652 points from 22 games. That's only a tiny little fraction, under 30 points a game on average they were conceding. There were, in fact, get this woeful defence from 22 games. There was 10 games, so nearly half. Half would be 11. In 10 out of 22 games, South had conceded at least 30 points. There was 5 games where they conceded 30-something points and another 5 where they conceded 40-something points. Unthinkable. The once mighty Rabbitohs, unthinkable that they could ever perform like this. And also, it wasn't just a matter of that they were losing to teams up the top of the ladder. They were getting flogged by Canberra and Penrith, who were the best 2 teams in 1990, who eventually played the 1990 grand final, where Canberra beat Penrith 18-14 in one of the classic grand finals. It wasn't just Canberra and Penrith up the top of the ladder who were tallying up South. There was Cronulla and St George, 2 teams in the middle of the ladder that were tallying up South. And there was even the Gold Coast Seagulls, believe it or not. Always trapped down the bottom of the ladder with South. The Gold Coast Seagulls of all teams beat South twice in 1990. And with all due respect, the Gold Coast Seagulls were a useless team. To put it bluntly and perfectly honestly, with all due respect, Gold Coast Seagulls were a dead set useless team who were in the competition at this point in time. So useless, in fact, they got the next 3 wooden spoons in a row, 1991, 1992 and 1993, which is obviously the next wooden spoon videos. Yeah. So, the only two games the South won in 1990 was the round 3 game where they beat East 26-12 and the round 9 game when they beat Parramatta 28-12. But with the win over East in round 3, South had to play East again in round 18, and on that occasion East won 21-13. So East beat them once, and as you've probably worked out, all the other teams beat them beat South at some point in the season. South only played Parramatta once in round 9 when they beat them 28-12. Parramatta was the only team who didn't beat South. There were 16 teams in the competition in 1990, so out of the 15 other teams, 14 out of 15 beat South at least once. Parramatta were the only team who didn't beat South. And remember too, they only played each other once. If they played each other a second time, maybe Parramatta might have beaten them. And more incredibly, like I said, this was going to be a marathon. In 1989, with South's minor premiership in 1989, at one point they won 12 consecutive games. Well, with the 1990 wooden spoon, at one point they lost 13 consecutive games. After they'd beaten East in round 3 and Parramatta in round 9, they then lost the last 13 consecutive games to finish off the season in the most dreadful possible fashion. So then finally we can get to the stats. 302 points scored, 652 conceded, like I already said. So the scorers obviously aren't going to be very much. The leading point scorer, his name was Charlie Saab, and he could only get 1 try, 31 goals, a total of 66 points for South in 1990. Then the try scorers are even more sorrowful, more pitiful, unfortunately. Graham Lyons was the leading try scorer, and he could only get 7 tries. Yeah, only 7 tries by Graham Lyons for South in 1990. But then, even more upsettingly, even more disturbingly, Phil Blake and Steve Maven both got 6 tries for South in 1990. Now, Steve Maven was an outstanding winger. Like he did have a few games where he lost South the game, but most of the time he was an excellent winger. He could only get 6 tries, and then Phil Blake, of all players, could also only get 6 tries in 1990. And Phil Blake, one of my personal favourite players of all time, he was in the competition 1982 up to 1995, and he played a long time for Manly and then for South. And then he also played stints with North, St George, Canberra and the Warriors in their first year, 1995. And Phil Blake picked up 137 career tries, but only 6 of them in 1990. So Phil Blake, the master of the chip and chase try, did the kick and chase try better than any other player ever in the history of the game. And it wasn't uncommon for Phil Blake to get 2 or 3 chip and chase tries, or 2 and 3 chip and chase and then try assists in the one game. That's the sort of rugby league attacking genius that Phil Blake was, and a player of his outstanding legendary calibre could only get 6 tries for them in 1990. And then there was another outside back, his name was Manoa Thompson, could only get 5 tries for South in 1990. Then we've even got the front rower Darren Brown got 4 tries for South in 1990. Wow. So when the front row is among one of the leading try scorers, that's when you know there's serious attacking problems. Serious defensive problems too, how they conceded at least 30 points 10 times in the season. So, well, like I said, lots that we had to get through. Well, still a ton more we've got to get through, in fact. So what we need to do now is the most embarrassing moments in the sun. So obviously the moments in the sun, I already said, only 2 games South did win. Round 3 over East 28-12. Round 3 over East 26-12. And round 9 over Parramatta 28-12. And then, usually, with these wooden spoon teams, I usually pick like 1 or 2 games, like for the most embarrassing moment, or sometimes I might pick out 3 or 4 gigantic losses that they had during the season. I might pick out 3 or 4 gigantic losses and ask you to comment down below which one do you think is the most embarrassing. Well, this time, get this. This time, there is no fewer than 10 or 11. There's either 10 or 11. Let's just go over them all. Yeah. Let's just go over them all. I'm pretty sure there's 10 contenders for most embarrassing loss by South Sydney in 1990. Let me know your comment below after I've said them all. In my opinion, it's definitely the 1990 round 19 game when South lost the Gold Coast Seagulls, the most useless team of them all. Not of all, but at this point in time. South lost the Gold Coast Seagulls 38-12 in round 19. And that's what enabled Gold Coast to avoid the wooden spoon, and South would end up getting it. But also, at that point in time, that just happened to be the Seagulls' biggest ever win in their very poor history, 26-point margin, 38 points to 12. But let me know your opinion below. What's the most embarrassing game? So, South Sydney's embarrassing losses in 1990. Let's go. So first of all, in round 2, there was a 36-10 loss to Cronulla. Then, in round 6, there was a 33-10 loss to St George. In round 7, there was a 48-14 hiding from Canberra. Ouch, 48 points. Was against the legendary Green Machine Raiders, who had Gary Belcher and John Ferguson, Ricky Stewart, Laurie Daly, Bradley Clyde, Steve Alders, everyone like that, but still 48-14 to Canberra in round 7. Then, in round 11, a 34-6 hiding from Brisbane. In round 12, a 44-6 hiding from Penrith. And in that game, Penrith's Greg Alexander, he managed to get 24 points in the one game. He got 1 try and 10 goals from 10 attempts in that game. Single-handedly destroyed Rabbitohs all by himself. Then round 14, the hiding's still coming left, right and centre, thick and fast. In round 14, a hiding from Balmain, 44 points to 10. In round 17, for the second time in the season, exactly 36 points against Cronulla. 36-20 lost to Cronulla. In round 19, like I already said, they'd lost to Gold Coast 38-12. Well, I missed one. My bad, I missed one. Earlier, in round 4, they'd also lost to Gold Coast 27-14. So to lose to Gold Coast twice in the one season, that's beyond embarrassing. Sorry, I forgot to say that one. When we're at round 4. So in round 4, it lost to Gold Coast 27-14. Round 19, they lost to Gold Coast again 38-12. Gold Coast Seagulls' biggest ever win at that point in time. And then, to finish the season, more embarrassment, a ridiculous 70-point scoreline, 1990 round 21. South have lost to St George 46-24. Then the final insult, the final humiliation, 1990 round 22, the final game of the season, the heaviest margin, 48-0. Incredibly, like I said, they conceded exactly 36 points against Cronulla twice in round 2 and round 17, and they conceded exactly 48 points twice against Canberra in round 7 and in round 22. 48-14 in round 7, 48-0 to Canberra in round 22. So there you go. One of the very first wooden spoons of them all, unfortunately, for the once almighty Rabbitohs. And like I said, they did not recover and make the finals once in the 1990s before they were eventually booted out of the competition at the end of 1999. This is where the downfall actually started. Thankfully, the fans rather than got them back in the comp a few years later. So thank you so much for watching all the way through to the end. I said it was going to be a marathon video. Not missing any crucial rugby league information. Next 3 wooden spoons, much more simple, much more straightforward. I already said Gold Coast Seagulls get all 3 of them. 991, 992 and 993. That was something that they were accustomed to, finishing way down the bottom of the ladder. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end so you didn't miss any crucial rugby league information. And thank you so much for ongoing pulverising, brutal, malevolent support. Your boy all day, DL47. Toodaloo.